Good morning, everyone. Today is November 16th. It is now 10:49 a.m. We will proceed with the hearing that was scheduled previously for this day. This hearing was supposed to receive the live testimony of Miss Frances de la Cruz. But before we get to that and address that, um, I would now like today's agenda was issued on November 12th in compliance with the Open Government Act. And at this time, I would like to recognize the vice chair for the proper motion to adopt today's agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion to adopt today's agenda so we can proceed with today's hearing proceedings. So move.
Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Any objections to the motion?
Ready?
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Today's agenda is hereby adopted. Also, I would like to recognize the vice chair to make the proper motion to suspend pertinent rules, and I now recognize Representative Blas Jonathan Atto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a motion to suspend pertinent rules specific to members to join in this hearing this morning on communications and on the agenda in its entirety, but not but only limited to conversations, not to voting. So move, Madam Chair.
Motion has been made to suspend applicable rules specific to allow participation of members who are not in the chamber, but not to allow them to vote, specifically to Representative Christina Sablan. Representative Donald Manglonia is on island, and he is joining us virtually. That motion has been seconded. Are there any objections to the motion? All those
Sorry, may I just clarify, Madam Chair, real quick?
Yes,
I
Representative
think,
Sablan.
thank you. I think I'm the only one that is off island, so I should be the only one not allowed to vote, right? Representative Maglonia should still be allowed to vote and participate fully.
Yes, that is what I just stated, that we will allow you to
Okay.
participate, but you will not be counted for the quorum. We do have a quorum today, and that you will not be allowed to vote, but allowed to participate in terms of speaking. Representative Donald is in the Commonwealth, and he is, by the House rules, allowed to participate virtually in voting and to establish a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sablon. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no, nay. The ayes have it. Pertinent rules and applicable rules of the House are hereby suspended. Moving along to number 2 on the agenda, I want to remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones to avoid any distractions, and also just a reminder out there to participate or continue practicing COVID protocols. As we know, there were some cases here in our building, and we pray for those families that they may go through this ordeal with as very little discomfort as possible. So please practice your COVID-19 protocols. Thank you. Moving along to item number 3 on the agenda, we were supposed to receive the live testimony of Ms. Frances de la Cruz today. However, I want the viewing public and those in the chamber today to know that I received a letter that was sent at 1 o'clock in the morning today, this morning, from the attorney of Ms. Frances de la Cruz, and that letter will be entered into the record, and it will be exhibit number 76, marked as exhibit number 76. Can we please put that up on the Teams? Thank you. I would like to recognize Representative Richard Lazama. If you could read this into the record, please.
Not clear. Okay, good, good. Thank you. In reference the matter of the investigative committee subpoena Francis M. de la Cruz, supplemental to November 11, 2021 letter. Dear Chairman, Chairwoman Babalta, Tiro, me, Alpha Die, I hope this letter finds you well. I have not received a response to my letter to you of November 11, 2021, but hope to continue our dialogue. As an initial matter, I want to make clear that there is currently no operative subpoena compelling Ms. De La Cruz's appearance before the House Judiciary and Governmental Operations Committee, JGO, or committee on November 16, 2021, or any other time. On August 12, 2021, the committee approved the issuance of subpoena to compel the testimony of Ms. De La Cruz. Therefore, Ms. De La Cruz was served with a subpoena on October 8, 2021. However, instead of an in-person testimony, Ms. De La Cruz was instructed to submit an affidavit responding to the 6 issues listed in the subpoena. Ms. De La Cruz did so, and her detailed response was received by the committee and read into the record during the October 26, 2021 committee session. The committee and Mrs. De La Cruz entered this accommodation without prejudice to the committee approving and issuing a further testimonial subpoena and without waiver of any immunities, privilege, or objections of Ms. De La Cruz or the office of the governor. To date, the committee has not approved or issued any further subpoena to Ms. De La Cruz. Instead, Representative Donald M. Manglonia stated at the October 26 committee session, and so at this time, Madam Chair, I recommend that we request for Ms. De La Cruz to appear before the committee through her counsel, Ms. Viola Alapuzo, to appear in front of the committee at a time that suits both us and counsel and Ms. De La Cruz. Your requested clarification from Representative Maglonia and has, if he had made a recommendation or a motion and Representative Maglonia agreed to turn his recommendation into a motion, which was seconded and then approved. Based on the committee's last action, there is no operative subpoena commanding Ms. De La Cruz to appear before the committee. As noted in my previous correspondence, should the committee have further questions for Ms. De La Cruz, I look forward to addressing them without waiving any immunities, objections, or rights. Should at some point the negotiation and accommodation break down and the committee consider contempt proceedings against Ms. De La Cruz, Ms. De La Cruz, she and I insisted on the requisite due process protection of the United States and Sinai Constitution. We also request ruling on the executive branch and Ms. De La Cruz's objections raised in relation to her constitutional testimony immunity, executive privilege claims, and assertions that the subpoena issue for her appearance to testify lacks a legitimate legislative purpose. To be clear, Mrs. De La Cruz hereby invokes her constitutional testimony immunity, executive privilege, and any other rights she may have now or will have in the future. Thank you for your time, consideration, and respect for my client's rights. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to contact me. We continue to hope that we can resolve this issue amicably without the need for judicial intervention. Faccio mi con rispetto. Viola Alapuzzo, she signed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lizama. There's also another letter that I just received about 20 minutes prior to this scheduled hearing to commence from Mr. Gil Burnbrick, the attorney, in-house attorney from the Office of the Governor, and I'd like to recognize Representative Ed Probst to read that into the record as well. It is entered as Exhibit 77. Thank you, Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Um, Thank you. November 15, 2021, the address to the Honorable Selena R. Bavata Chairwoman states, Dear Madam Chairwoman, we write to follow up on the previously expressed objections to the committee's demand for testimony from Francis de la Cruz, Executive Assistant to the Governor, without waiving those objections or any rights or privileges of the Governor or the Office of the Governor. We invite further discussions with the committee to continue the negotiation and accommodation process. Please let us know an appropriate time and mechanism to do so. Respectfully, Gilbert J. Burnbrick, signed, Legal Counsel, Office of the Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Probst. These two letters are now entered into as exhibits with regard to this investigation. And I wanted to talk a little bit about these two letters that we received today prior to the hearing to receive the testimony of Ms. Frances de la Cruz. And over the past several weeks, actually, and more so in the last couple of days, we have been receiving communication from the Office of the Governor and Ms. Viola Lapuzo, the counsel on record for Ms. Frances de la Cruz, trying to negotiate out of the spirit of cooperation between the executive branch and the legislative branch. We have been overly accommodating by, you know, certainly allowing Ms. Frances de la Cruz to submit an affidavit in response to a subpoena we issued on October 8th. And this has been going back and forth. Both Mr. Garber and Ms. Alapuzo have objected to the subpoena that was issued on October 8th and have made claims of absolute immunity for Ms. Frances de la Cruz. We have also informed them that the affidavit was inadequate as the committee members still had more questions of Ms. de la Cruz in relation to her purely administrative and clerical duties of her responsibilities as executive assistant to Governor Torres. Mr. Garber and Ms. Alapuzo have further question that this investigation into Governor Torres does not serve a legitimate legislative purpose. Instead, what they submitted as proposal initially was to allow Mr. La Cruz to submit an affidavit, and within 77 days, we were to um, digest that, and we did, and we came to the conclusion that um, it was inadequate, and her live testimony was needed before this committee. I also want to state for the record that Mr. Garber has even mentioned under a threat of a lawsuit to this committee, should we not comply with what he has submitted case law and as grounds for a lawsuit against this committee. We have certainly, in all our communication to Ms. De La Cruz through her attorney and to Mr. Burnbrick, have never dismissed the subpoena. We have never dismissed, we have always reiterated that Ms. Frances De La Cruz is still subject to the subpoena issued by this body. Um, I mean, if that were the case, if the subpoena was inoperable, we have certainly made accommodations to Miss Viola Lapuzu during her time in quarantine, and made accommodations to move hearings because of medical appointments and such. And not once has she ever raised the issue that a subpoena for then witness Miss Keiko Rosario was in fact invalid or inoperable. We want the public to know that we have been overly accommodating to move these dates, and now through Attorney Ross Garber and through Governor Torres's intervention, through his attorney, they are trying to prevent Ms. De La Cruz from testifying before this committee. It is unfortunate that Ms. De La Cruz is caught in between, and we have agreed with the governor on that. We have agreed with Ms. Frances De La Cruz that it is unfortunate that these employees, government employees, good government employees, are being caught in the middle of this. But we didn't want it that way. Certainly, the governor has implicated these government employees by writing their names on these receipts and showing that he has involved them. The governor has repeatedly said that he wants these investigations to be done as soon as possible. So why all the delays? Why all the intervention from the office of the governor? Why all these roadblocks? Um, and that is what I wanted to say. So today we will, I want to ask first before we move on, does anybody else have any further comments? I recognize Representative Ed Probst.
Madam Chair, thank you, and colleagues. I just wanted to clarify. So the subpoena, just for clarification, it was never relinquished. It was never taken away. The subpoena was always there.
Yes,
is
and
that
we have
correct?
always communicated that on live recordings and in our communication.
Thank you.
It was never suspended or dismissed or extinguished by this committee. It was always understood to be an active and operable subpoena.
As we have all seen, and we've been here, so it is clear. But Madam Chair, if I may, and colleagues, if you would allow me to make a motion at this time, without having withdrawn or quashed or our initial subpoena, the committee has decided to enlarge may enlarge the scope. Um, would it be too early if I could motion to issue the subpoena?
First, I want to ask if anybody else has any other comments before we move forward to making that motion.
Okay.
Representative Donald Magnolia or Representative Sablon, do you have any further comments before we move forward?
Really briefly, Madam Chair, I may be recognized.
Recognized.
Thank you. I think you covered all the most important points that that reflect the sentiments of the committee. I share in your disappointment. I'm troubled by what seems to me to be such a showing of bad faith by Governor Torres and by Ms. De La Cruz, and for you to receive these communications at the 11th hour on the day that we expect Ms. De La Cruz to appear, and having, as you noted, never rescinded or quashed the subpoena. Never at any time did we release Ms. De La Cruz from that subpoena. In fact, I'd be interested in going back to the record to count the number of times that we said, I think almost every single one of us on the committee, that we still wanted her to appear. And we have been more than patient, more than accommodating and reasonable when we agreed to allow her to submit her written affidavit. And and you said on the record, and we all said multiple times that she should still expect to appear before the committee to clarify some points in her affidavit and to answer any additional questions that the members may have. So I fully support issuing a new subpoena, although our position is still that the subpoena that was issued in the first place remains perfectly valid. And yeah, like we should expand the scope at this time and expect her to appear at the time that is stated in this new subpoena. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sablon. Anybody else? Any further comments? I recognize Representative Richard Lizama.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just to clarify the letter that I just read, the letter came on November 16, which is today. And as we speak, we have given them a subpoena quite some time ago. She requested on November 11 for a response or need to have more dialogues within the committees and the council. We did our part. So for the last minute letter that just came to us and the one I just read, to my opinion, is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lizama. Any further comments? If there are none, we will move forward. I recognize Representative Ed Probst.
Madam Chair, at this point, I feel that it's important that we move to issue, I'm sorry, I'd like to make a motion to move that we issue the expanded subpoena. I guess this would be a second subpoena with an amended scope. So moved.
Second.
There is a motion on the floor to issue a subpoena, although we haven't quashed or dismissed the first one. Issue a subpoena with an expanded scope to Ms. Frances de la Cruz. Would you like to go into detail as to what time and when?
Madam Chair, I would like to recommend to you and this committee that she should have been prepared to testify today. We have made, as has been stated several times, so many accommodations. She should have her schedule cleared. I believe that we should proceed forward, and I would recommend that we do it as early as today as perhaps 1:30 or 2 p.m., subject to your call, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Probst. And without having withdrawn or quashed the initial subpoena, the committee has decided to, or made a motion to enlarge the scope of our questions of Ms. De La Cruz, to issue that subpoena today, to have her appear at 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. Do I have a second for that motion? It has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. That motion carries. There will be a subpoena issued for Ms. Frances de la Cruz to appear today at 1:30 p.m. before this committee. We are prepared to move forward with the questions for Ms. de la Cruz this afternoon. And at this time, I would like to request for a recess while we work on that subpoena. If there are no further concerns from the committee members. No objections?
No objection on the recess.
Thank you. This meeting is hereby in recess until 1:30 this afternoon.